fixed income, commodities, all tell you we're heading into a recession. And so that's a huge shift in psychology. It's got Bitcoin and Ethereum on the move. If there was ever a time to be in Bitcoin and crypto, this is why it was created.
What's going on, guys? K-Dub here with another episode of Crypto Zombie. Welcome back to the channel. Hope you're having a great week so far. Bitcoin has had a very nice week. Now, keep in mind, we are getting closer now towards the end of the week, and this weekly candle, remember, we need to close above that sort of $25,300 area, more specifically get above the 200 weekly moving average, which is sitting at 25,342. Can we close that by the end of this week? Well, there is a lot I need to talk about. We need to talk about what's going on right now with the banks, the collapse, right? Some people are saying that maybe this was planned. It's all part of an elaborate scheme by the US. You know, there's always a conspiracy or two. But if you do think about it, it does kind of seem like the dominoes all fell at once. And there was a breaking announcement that did just come out from the Fed that sort of seems a little suspicious. So we're going to talk about that. Is it all just an elaborate scheme for CBDCs? Well, let me tell you something, guys. On the Bitcoin chart right now, we're seeing a few things. We're going to get to it in a minute. But number one, we are seeing whales actually buying at these levels and moving massive amounts off into their own personal wallets, which I will show you in a bit. And, two, there are some insane, or I should say there is some insane confluence between multiple indicators right now, one of them which has never been wrong before. So I think a lot of people might be surprised what actually ends up happening next for Bitcoin. So if all that sounds good, you know what to do. If you're not subscribed, get subscribed. Also, super quick, yesterday I had a few people reach out and say that the link was not working for Fi Network. I reached out to the team. Yes, there was an issue on their end. It was down for about an hour. So anybody who tried to use the link within that time, it didn't work. So basically they said, unfortunately, if you want, you have to enter a new email address. I guess the old ones won't work. My apologies, guys. I know that sucks. It only happened to a few people, but for those that it did happen to, I just want to let you guys know that. So let's dive in. Let's have a look. And obviously, if you have any, problems, you guys can always reach out to me. Make sure you're talking to the official zombie, though, not a scammer. So as you guys can see right here, we are in fact breaking this level for the S&P, right? And we have actually seen Bitcoin sort of outperforming the S&P. Although it is interesting that on a day where you're seeing, stocks pump, Bitcoin is just going sideways. But I do believe that Bitcoin could be setting up for something massive because as I showed you guys yesterday, this right here is a classic run-of-the-mill textbook bump and run reversal. You can see right here, this is the famous picture that is floating around online. I still don't know who took this, but you can see right here, the lead-in phase, the major dip, and then we have a test again, and boom. I mean, it's basically verbatim. We had 2 touches, the picture shows 3, but you know what I'm saying, guys. And keep in mind, looking at now, if you take this trend and move up, you can see that this does put the possibility, of Bitcoin coming up somewhere to the top of this band. Now, is it going to do that? Well, you can see right here, we are starting to consolidate above the heart line, right here and above this resistance, right? So eventually it's going to squeeze it. So, we might see price a little bit boring as we consolidate, but then I do think we are going to have that big move, right? Now, is it possible? Is it possible that if we take this breakout, from here, that we could get Bitcoin anywhere between $52,000 to $57,000? Could that realistically actually happen? Well, I just want to point out something really quick. And I'm not trying to, blow smoke or super hopium. I'm just saying, let's look at the charts. Pretending we didn't know anything that's going on. If you look at what's happening right here, you could see that we are in the exact same type of a formation in the super guppy, right? Where we had this neutral into the red, and then we had 1, 2, 3 dips into the blue, okay? And honestly, don't worry about the colors. They're just averages and stuff like that. Just look at what it's telling us, okay? So again, we had the same thing, right? We had this neutral into the red, and we had 1, 2, 3. Now, I showed this to you yesterday, but I want to show you something else, and this is where the confluence comes in. If we look at the wave edge down here, right? So this is on the weekly. This is the lower one. Look down here. So wave edge has only ever given 3 green dots ever in its entire history. Actually, what's interesting is Market Cipher has actually given 4, but it had a double one, which was interesting. That's why I like to look at them together. But anyway, you can see right here that this right here absolutely marked the bottom, right? This right here absolutely marked the bottom. This right here did not exactly mark the bottom, but here's something interesting. If we pay attention to these criteria, right? So we have neutral going into the red with 1 to 3 blues. We got that, okay? Number 1. Did we get the green dot? Yes. And also, if we come down here and we actually look at the wave on the wave edge, this was a little bit of a fake out right here, but you can actually see that once we get all of this, okay, we get the red turning back into the neutral, and we get this wave coming up into the deep purple with the dot, right? With the green dot, that basically signals that we're at basically the end of the bear market, essentially. So have we had those all flash just yet? Not exactly. We are slightly in the purple, right? But we haven't had this flow come up to the top. That was another thing I want to talk about. If we come over here, where am I going? So you see how we flow into the yellow? We haven't gone into there yet. So basically, there's like only 2 things we're waiting for. We're waiting to have this flow into the yellow, and we're waiting to see this basically flash a neutral band. And if that happens, then essentially I'm going to just say that the bottom is in. And I know people don't want to hear me say that, but you can even see this massive liquidation and whale buying down here. And if you don't believe that the whales are buying, guys, which by the way, if you do want to learn how to trade, you guys know that I have a tutorial, right, popping up above, and there is, I think, $56,000 in bonuses below, so take advantage of that if you guys want. Get subscribed. We're going to, I think we're going to have another really good trading opportunity coming up again. But you can see right here, Bitcoin skies to 26.5%, its highest level in 9 months, whales showing major interest. So look at this chart right here. If we zoom in, they say that yesterday saw one of the biggest percent changes in self-custody. This is from Glassnode. Roughly 70,000 Bitcoin have been withdrawn into self-custody since the collapse of SVB on Friday. So 70,000 Bitcoin coming off of the exchanges, and we're also seeing the highest level in 9 months, and whales showing major interest during that buy. So the whales were buying. The whales were actually buying. Were they FOMOing in? Well, price was going up. So there were obviously more buyers than there were sellers, right? That's why the price was going up, right? So it's very, very interesting. And the other thing is Bitcoin dominance has broken this downtrend. So this is the dominance of Bitcoin versus altcoins, right? Look at that. Look at that right there. Three points of contact. And look at this. Consolidate, consolidate, consolidate. Boom. That to me is crazy. That is mind-blowing that the dominance played out the way that it did. So obviously, whales are running into Bitcoin. And as the US sees its second biggest banking collapse ever, Bitcoin is just becoming stronger. Now, we'll get to the conspiracy in a minute, but, Mike Novogratz, he was over on Squawk Box, and he was saying that this is basically an advertisement for Bitcoin.
Listen, this reminds me a lot of 2018 December when the Fed had this idea of one last hike. And of course, it sent the markets into a tailspin. They had to reverse it soon after. In a short period of time, information has changed dramatically. The commodity market is telling you, oil market is telling you that we're heading into a recession. We are going to have a credit crunch in the US and globally. And so fixed income, commodities, all tell you we're heading into a recession. PAL should pause, and we'll be cutting rates sooner than we think. And so that's a huge shift in psychology. It's got Bitcoin and Ethereum on the move. If there was ever a time to be in Bitcoin and crypto, this is why it was created, in that governments print too much money whenever the pain gets too great. And we're seeing that.
So is now the time to be buying Bitcoin? I mean, some people would say, no, the price is too high when you can wait for Bitcoin at 10,000. But if you think that Bitcoin is going to go to 250,000 next cycle or $1 million in our lifetime, which I do, then is buying at 25,000 really that expensive? Obviously not financial advice, but I do think it was funny, if you guys saw this, that we had a Be Your Own Bank truck advertisement literally outside. Wait for it. I don't want to ruin it. I don't want to ruin the surprise. Silicon Valley Bank. I just think that's funny. It is an advertisement. And, you would think that this would have affected Bitcoin negatively, and yet you actually saw people running into crypto, which was kind of nuts. Now, this is potentially where it gets into that. Is it a conspiracy? Is this what they don't want, right? Well, the Blockchain Association of America sent FOIAs to the Federal Reserve. If you don't know what that is, it's the Freedom of Information Act, right? So basically, the CEO said that the requests are intended to uncover the truth behind the potential debanking of crypto firms in the US. Over the past month, the sector has seen some of its most prominent actors lose access to accounts, the ability to process transfers in fiat currency, and more. So here's the big story. Is the US government debanking crypto companies on purpose? Well, per an official announcement, the BA requested information from the Fed Deposit Insurance Corporation, the Board of Governors, the Office of the Comptroller, and they claim that these agencies may have improperly contributed to the failures of the pro-crypto banks. Actually, before we get into this, I just want to point something out real quick. In the interview with Novogratz, Andrew Ross Sarkin actually went on to ask this.
I get that to some degree. I also think that basically the bailouts by the United States helped stabilize things like the stable coin, which was pegged to the dollar, as you know, and you saw where crypto had fallen as a function of all of that.
Now, you have to ask yourself the question, the chicken before the egg before the chicken, the horse before the carriage. Like, was it really the bailout that saved USDC? Technically, you can say that. Okay? But also, where did the failure start? Where did the problem start? It started with the banks, not with the crypto, right? I would love if we could just transact in USDC. That would be awesome. But no, if you want to sell it or use it in the real world, you have to then go through a bank and convert it. It's a lot easier to just, accept it, right? So I don't 100% agree with Andrew. I think the banks were actually the more dangerous players, not the cryptos. Anyway, I digress. They went on to say, Blockchain Association of America, if you forgot what we were talking about, that the crypto industry is building the next generation of the internet and financial services. This is important work that has created tens of thousands of American jobs. There we go. That's why they don't like it, because it's creating jobs. And every time the jobs report comes out, Americans are actually getting jobs, right? It's going up. And that's bad, right? It's like totally backwards. They want something to break. Well, guess what, guys? Something is breaking. The banking system. It's breaking right now in front of your eyes, right? Chief Policy Officer Jake Chervinsky, who's also a lawyer, by the way, claims that the nonprofit has received troubling reports about companies losing their account without notice and explanation. This strategy could be fatal for these companies and the digital asset industry. If they can prove that the U.S. regulators are abusing their powers to attack crypto, they could make the case that they are breaking the law and committing illegal activities. It can take a long time. We'll pursue them aggressively, and we'll share what we can as soon as we're able. In the meantime, we need your help. If debanking has directly affected you or your company, we want to know about it. So yeah, reach out if you guys have any issues. So this is where Elevate Trading says, the Federal Reserve announces July launch for the FedNow service. Very suspicious timing around bank failures. Looks to be the first step towards a state-backed central CBDC, right? So we know that this is inevitable, but it does seem a little weird. You can see right here, it says to offer a modern instant payment solution to move full steam ahead with preparations to join the FedNow service. The Federal Reserve is creating a leading-edge payment system that is resilient, adapted, and accessible. So again, sounds like a CBDC. Not to mention, now that Ethereum has moved to proof of stake, Gary Gensler is coming out and saying that Ethereum is in fact, or should be, classified as a security. Whereas before, when it was proof of work, it was basically like Bitcoin, right? Commodity, property. Now he's pushing back on this again. So that's basically it for me today. Not a lot of great news to talk about as far as what's coming out of the news itself, but having a look at, these charts and what we're seeing here on this Confluence and the fact that honestly, it doesn't look as bearish as a lot of people are saying. Like, there's still a lot of I'm not saying that we can't have a pullback. We actually, unfortunately, made another CME futures gap. So maybe we close the gap. But I am actually starting to really feel more bullish on Bitcoin, versus some of the things that are going on right now, because I think the world is waking up. The world is literally waking up. We have a Bitcoin truck in front of Silicon Valley Bank, and you're seeing the banks collapse, and yet you saw Bitcoin pump. I don't know, guys. It seems like we could literally be starting that decoupling. So that's it for me. Thank you so much for coming back to the channel. You guys rock. You're the reason that I make these videos. And remember, if you do want to learn how to trade responsibly and safely, I do recommend something like Apex only because it is decentralized, but I get it. Sometimes you got to use centralized exchanges. It's just the risk you take. But if you want, check out this tutorial popping up right here, right now, and go follow me on Twitter because I am going to be on the Debate Crypto show later. If you want to get that notification, you're going to want to head over there. So until next time, stay crypto, and of course, peace out.